highly low.
All right, so we're here to talk about this High Republic Starkiller from Starfall Sabers that was sent to me by Nick for a repeat customer. So I'm not going to go over a huge amount of detail since this is a repeat client. So a lot of the functions will be exactly the same as previous hilts I've done for him. But that being said, let's hop down to the table. Let's go over what went on with the install electronics, the chassis design, some of the features and components that went in there, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll come back out. We'll show off some other features, presets with the blade actually in to demonstrate some other functions, and then we'll wrap it up. So appreciate you checking it out. All right, so let's talk about this High Republic Starkiller from Starfall Sabers. So this is a repeat customer. Some of these feature sets will be the same across his sabers that I've installed for him, but this does have some unique items that was a collaboration between his ideas and mine when it comes to the aesthetics of the internals. But let's just take a look real quick on the exterior, kind of show off some of these features. So Nick did a really nice paint job. This was a shroud I etched for Nick a long time ago, and he incorporated on this particular saber. So what I did was I actually, since I did the etch design, I used this in the chassis, and we'll see that here in a minute. But we've got this really nice Starkiller exposed crystal chamber design, but in gold and a kind of a bone or an ivory color with copper and brass accents. So we do have a blade plug in. Our blade retention screw is right here. This is just my typical 1032 set screw, but if this, I believe either Nick provided one or the customer already has one. So this does sport a Shtok V3 Neopixel, and it is sub-bladed into inner and outer rings. And then the main blade will be a different sub-blade. And then I've got a Shadowfoil Neopixel PCB that's got 7 pixels, but I've only wired it up for 6. So the center pixel is the same as the outermost one. So, but we do get some interesting rotary animations which show up all the facets and imperfections in this real quartz crystal. But you can see we got some copper rods in the back there, this interesting little spiky detail, but very cool crystal chamber design. And then we've got copper Kalymian Custom Sabers switches. If the crystal chamber is facing you, left is main, right is aux. Copper cover tech, and then how we get to everything is we just unscrew the pommel. And we got a fully removable chassis design with the Shtok rotary PCB down there in the bottom. Got the pogos on top of the chassis here. We've got the males or the PCB side. So here is the chassis design. The customer requested we incorporate one of the Shadowfoil Neopixel arrays that I think this was designed by Kim Kanema of the Cantina. It's a collaboration. So this is subdivided into 3 strips. The outer 2 generally, for the most part, have the same styles, but it's different for every preset. But you can program any one of these 3 strips to do its own thing. And then we've got a vented Greeblie here with a 2020 strip underneath and some Mylar diffusion on top. So there's a top and bottom subblade, and this is reversed. And then just some Greeblie design. And you'll notice the customer, we asked to match the paint scheme. And then on the reverse side, we have these cool High Republic designs. So here's again the match to the shroud, just a little bit more miniature. And then sort of a tie floral design embossed in gold. So these are in gold. And then you can see sort of at the end of the strips here, some also floral embossed patterns. And then we've mimicked the grip diamond pattern here. I believe this comes from the Wade Sabers Master Sentinel, because I think I've got one of those. But then, yeah, we've just got some, you know, typical Star Wars Greeblies all around with some embossed patterns. I do have an onboard aux switch. So we have a Proffie V3 and then a KR 28mm bass speaker. And then since we have gesture control, we can twist on and off or even thrust on. And then if we need to switch between presets, we can use our aux switch. But we got a kill switch down here below so that if you just want a quick access to the chassis when it's in, you can just pull it out real quick and switch it on and off. The Neopixel accents will turn off after 5 or 10 minutes. I forget what I've set it to. But yeah, so we have a 18650 battery tray with the Starfall logo in the bottom here. Positive terminal clearly indicated. Spring sides are negative. So when we get ready to put our battery in, we put the flat to the spring and the nipple to the nipple. And then if you don't hear a boot up sound, then you hit the kill switch. So we can see. So you can see on the Neopixel array, I've got the outer two off and just the center doing something. And now we got it lighten up. Just doing different stuff. So that'll do different things in the on and off state.
Celestial.
So I do have this loaded up with the Starfall sound font package and then also a bunch of other sound fonts that the client has provided in the past towards the end. So we're not going to go over everything. We're just going to show off a few and then just get a chance to check out all of the Greeblies here. So we've got like the Universal Greeblie, fully encased the speaker tab so we get really good sound resonance. This is a great sound. In fact, I've programmed it for like 2250, which isn't super high, but then I've backed it off to about 70% of that, and it still has plenty of volume pushing out the bottom here. But some other Greeblies I've repeated in the past for this customer in theme only. But yeah. Most of them do respond to blaster blocks or clashes. Right, and because we do have gesture on, I'm doing battle mode. So if we clash it, we're in a lockup until we pull away. But we can just hit the aux. Show off a couple other fonts here. I've also dim bladed this so that it's not super bright and in your face. So this is like 10% brightness. So this PCB can get way brighter, but I think I've got it set to a good where you don't need any diffusion or anything like that, and you actually can see quite a bit.
Hero's Journey.
All right, so let's actually pop it in the saber. We can see the crystal. So as soon as you plug it in, you'll see the crystal light up. Now, again, because I do have the Shadowfoil PCB under there, some of these will have more animated accents than others. Some of them will just be like this pulsing audio flicker in the on state, right? You can actually see it rotate, light up some of those defects. But then the inner and outer rings do their own thing as well on the emitter. Right. Let's actually go back one. So if the color isn't as bright as some of the other presets. That's because I'm using a rotary that has a very limited pixel size. That way it really shows off those defects. So like this is a lot brighter in person, but it also really shows off the animation in the crystal, right?
Hero's Journey.
So. If we put our blade plug in, we do get a little bit of a shine through here.
Reconcile.
So I don't know how well you're hearing that through this camera speaker, but this hilt sounds phenomenal. So that'll cover this part of it. We'll show off a few more functions with the blade in, but like I said, if we're ready, we can pull the kill switch. But if not, the timeout is either 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm totally forgetting which one I did. Just hit that. And we're ready to display it. So let's wrap this part up and we'll show off some functions with the blade in. All right, so we up top showed off a few of the blade styles and functions, but then we hopped down to the table and showed off the chassis, which was a lot of fun to do, to collaborate on stylistic things that I don't normally do, and then some that I do. So let's talk about some feature sets. Again, this is a repeat customer, so these are pretty much the same. Do want to mention that this takes a 1-inch diameter Neopixel blade. I've programmed it for a 32-inch length. I'm actually demoing it with a 7/8 blade and an adapter, since this has my KR pixel stick in it and the color is a little bit more vibrant and uniform. So quite a bit of presets on here, but I've left about 25% space on the config for the Proffie V3 for the customer to do his own blade styles or things like that, presets that he chooses. And I did load up the SD card with all of the fonts that he's provided in the past, but I've only programmed the Starfall fonts, a few of the Survivor fonts, and some grayscale fonts, etc. So we demoed the High Republic font up top for Nick at Starfall. So let's show off a few more things. Cornhorn is the only font that has, or I should say preset that has color change direct. So when we light it up, we're going to have this white color. If we hold aux and tap power, we're going to switch to this purplish color. And we can just keep going back and forth between those two colors. Now, it does also reflect in the crystal chamber. I don't know how well that shows up on camera, but those two will always match each other, even though they can have their own blade styles. That being said, every other preset uses the color change wheel, and I generally discourage that for OS 7 because it will overwrite the main color for every chassis and pixel accent, and it will just do the main color. The off colors don't change. Ignition colors don't change, so it can sort of look messy. But all of those things can be accessed via edit mode. This does have the Hu Yang voice pack from Brian Connor on it, so he'll guide you through the setup. Conveniently, I do have the main blade as the first blade, so if you do want to get in and change anything that I've programmed, you can jump into edit mode, change colors based on the blade. This will be blade 1, and then it goes crystal blade 2, the inner and outer rings for the Neopixel emitter 3 and 4, and then it just moves on to the chassis accents after that. So you don't have to go that deep into the menu system to get to blade 1 to change those colors. So again, that's if you're not on Cornhorn. Cornhorn is the only one that's just going to flip-flop. So
Party Saber.
So now we're on the Party Saber, which does have the special abilities mode for FET 263. So we're going to start off in this kind of cyan color. I do have the crystal just rotating throughout the rainbow, so to speak. And then we can twist off the saber. Okay, so if we click Aux and twist in the correct direction, we'll get into the party mode, which means every hard swing switches colors randomly. And then it will also switch the hums to match the colors. It's going to be real subtle on screen. And anyway, so that's party mode. And that was one that I've done for this customer in the past. So just refresh on your special abilities. It's either power or aux and a twist to left and to the right, depending on what exactly you want to do. But you do have twist on and twist off. So be mindful, like I just messed up when I was doing that. You also have thrust on. And then again, those gesture controls will get us into battle mode. Battle mode just means when we clash, we'll engage a lockup depending on what orientation we're in. And then if you don't want to do that, you can always just hit power, which again, when the crystal's facing you, left is power. Okay?
Mode Kuna.
So a bunch of other survivor fonts.
Master Seer John.
Right?
Jedi Knight Dargangera.
And I think these are all styles I've provided to him in the past. So nothing new here.
Centauri. Ninth Sister.
But I do have force player and track player and quote player engaged. So to get track player in the off state, we hold power for a second when the blade is horizontal. If we want to play the designated track, we point the saber up and hold power for a second. Right. To turn it off, we can be in any orientation as long as we hold it for a second. But if we're horizontal and we hold it for a second, get a chime. And then we can rotate to the right to go alphanumerically forward, I believe. Some of them are very loud, apparently. And then to continue playing whatever track we're on, we can either hit aux or power. Again, these things do different functions. I normally just hit power. One of those button commands will continue to play randomly and it'll select random tracks. Or of course, I'm not actually pressing these. So yeah, it can randomly select, or it can select sequentially, or it'll loop. Again, I don't memorize those things, but they'll be on the printouts that I've provided you in the past. But when the saber's on, we're going to start in force player mode, right? So if we're not pointed up, hold it for a second, we'll get a force effect for as long as the sound effect plays. We want to switch to quote player mode. I don't know if I've done it for this one. No.
Centauri.
It's too late for that.
There we go. So point the hilt down, press and hold power for a second, and now we're going to switch to quote player mode. So now
Stop.
it's just going to keep playing quotes, and it's set up for random.
Force is strong here.
You'll notice the blade doesn't do anything because we're not playing a force sound, we're playing a quote sound.
Stop.
But if we want to go back, point the hilt down, and you'll get the sound effect. So now you can see the color changed for a second, and then for as long as it played that sound. All right, so now we're back into force player mode, okay? So that's track player, selected track, quote player, and force player, all with holding the power for a second. And so those are all the same things that we've done in the past. But there's a boatload of sound fonts on the SD card. So if you want to get into edit mode and like copy a preset, you have all of the sound fonts that you've provided me in the past, and you can just jump into edit mode, change the font, or duplicate a preset, and then change the font and change the colors to your desired. Again, you got to print out for how to do all that. You can also do it in the config if you want to just switch it up. Again, I've given you plenty of space.
Ninth sister.
So
I am Juhani. Shinhati.
So this blade style you provided on one of the configs you sent me. So this is for Shin Hati, just the standard orange. I think the same is true of this one. So I actually don't know what this blade style is supposed to look like. Looks pretty cool.
You're wrong.
So those are from the Soka series.
Liquid static.
This is from like the either default Proffie fonts or Now we're in a grayscale.
Battery level.
Okay, so now we're at the end battery level preset, and you can see the bubble. And again, all the onboard chassis pixels will go from green to red as well.
Starfall.
So that covers it. Again, you can check out the config, edit it to your desire. So let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you enjoy it. And I appreciate the opportunity, and have a good one.